never expected them to carry this burden with them also. I never did. And unfortunately, it pulls me away, and there are some things that are just the way they are, and it makes me sad. But I know they love me, and I know that they love their brother. So anyway, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Adapted Life podcast. And yes, I am back. Yeah, I know it's kind of challenging for me to get myself back up here into the room and thinking about it. Well, I think about it all the time, but it's just been a very busy life. I went to California for a week at the beginning of August and spent time with my daughter and her boyfriend and their dog. And that was really special. You know, we're thinking about what we're going to do in September when she has her baby shower. And, you know, we have a big challenge, all of us caregivers, especially when we're mom and we have other kids. And we need to be one place, and it's hard to leave this place. I have to find care for Daniel because I'm not planning on bringing him with me to the shower because it's just a lot, and California is a long way and he's very difficult to travel with. So I'm in the process of a big undertaking of trying to find enough help so that we can get away, me and John, for a couple days together, which we have literally not been able to do ever since Daniel has come into our world, right? So I'm a little stressy about that and trying to make that work because I want to give my daughter the best of me that I can. Eventually, Daniel will be traveling to California. You know, I have big plans for that, but I'm trying to figure out other ways of expanding life, and it's really hard. He's very medically fragile. For example, just the other day, last week, we were in the hospital because he had a 103.6 fever, and he was sick. And it started when I was in California, and he's been sick, and it's been a tough couple of weeks. He did not get admitted. He was discharged with medication, and I've been going through a lot, taking care of his needs. So, yeah, busy life, busy. And we moved our son Thomas. He's finished at Berklee College of Music, and he just needs another semester up there to student teach because he's going to be a music teacher. So we're busy with helping our son, our youngest son, and then there's here and me and taking care of Daniel. So it's been quite a summer, and hopefully next year we can have a real vacation. This year we just didn't because of everything that happened in the spring. We just really didn't have the energy to get everything planned and set up because of all these other things. So anyways, here I am. I'm back, and I love being back. And so I just want to say hi to all of my friends out there and all of you people who are caregivers. And I love the feedback that I've been getting, and I am always dedicated, even if I'm not here as much. Just know that I'm thinking of you in spirit. So I've been doing a lot of work, a lot of work on self-love, as I've talked about in my meditation journey and my transformational journey. And one of the things that is a big key in that is this whole concept of letting go of attachments and focusing on the positive things that serve your highest purpose, and letting go of the negativity and the scarcity and the things that really just kind of zap your energy and are not helpful to your goals, your dreams, and where you're going and all that kind of stuff. But that being said, this is a very, very important thing to do, not only to learn how to let go of attachments, but to also know when to establish healthy boundaries for things that are kind of dangerous to you, to your positive improvements in life. But that being said, those of us who have been brought into this world of caregiving for somebody who is medically fragile or disabled or ill, we do carry with us uh, a lot that we can't let go. These are attachments, and as much as people are like, you're like, oh, the things you're attached to. I just finally did a class where Liza Colpa is her name on Inside Timer, and I was so no, was it Liza Colpa? I think it was Katie O'Connor, not Liza Colpa. It was Katie O'Connor on Inside Timer. They have great teachers on the the Inside Timer Plus platform where they have courses. And she was basically saying you don't have to like let go completely, that you actually can focus on that kind of stuff that you're attached to, those things, whatever those things are, and just give it a lot of love and kind of learn how to live with it by giving it love and just like not letting it dictate where you're going kind of thing. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but I listened to a lot of self-help stuff and it was really kind of cool. And I started to think about, we do carry, and I kept having this in my head. My intuition was like, yeah, what do we carry forward with us? What is it that is there? And these stories and our situations and our experiences have helped to build the foundation of our life as caregivers. So the other day I gave myself this topic. I'm like, okay, so let's just see what comes out. I wrote this while I was in California. And while I'm in California with my daughter, I always try to be very mindful now of not over focusing on Daniel, and all of that, because I want to be present for my daughter and her life, and she needs that. So I had some downtime while she was working. I took myself to a Starbucks. I sat in a corner, got myself coffee, and I said, I need to write an episode. So I was thinking about this topic, and I wrote on my paper, what do I carry forward? And this is kind of what came out of my heart, what I'm going to share with you today. So this whole episode is going to be called The Things That You Carry Forward. And this is in reference to, when something happens traumatically to somebody that you love or to you, and it just that stays with us. Every special needs parent I know has endless stories of these really difficult times and traumatic things that have really paved the way, defining the change in their life and what they've had to overcome. Um, so, the things that you carry forward, it is hard to find the appropriate adjective to describe what a caregiver carries along with them. Carries both literally and figuratively, right? In my case, right, a child is born and things were not normal and traumatic shifts happened, and everything that was expected and hoped for in that little bundle of joy's life became entangled with fear and unknown, uncertainty, grief, just confused. And yeah, grief. And grief is a really, really big thing we carry forward. Even though he's still alive, even though our special needs loved ones are with us, uh, parents of children born with life-altering disabilities do experience so much grief, but they receive very little support for it. People don't talk about it, right? So, oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. It's like your child is alive though, right? But of course you love them, but there is a grieving that happens, a grief and a loss of the life that could have been normal, the life that you expected to have as a person growing and raising kids and getting older and retiring and living out your life in the path that you thought it was going to look like, right? You don't have that um, in the life that they should have had and won't have. Whatever that looks like, whatever the level of disability is, there's always this feeling of, it's upsetting because they'll never play soccer or they won't be able to get married, and they're either going to be with you and you have to deal with this forever, and it's going to impact your whole family, and all the normal parenting joys can easily be replaced with that sort of heart-wrenching grief that you just got to go through. And I sought out, therapy pretty early on. Both my husband and I did, because it was like, what do we do? How do we handle this? How do we handle how we're feeling? And it was really scary. And yet people didn't really understand how incredibly painful it is. It's just, yeah. So, often there is not much time to process what they are feeling, we are feeling. In my case, I thought my son was normal. He was born 8 pounds, 12 ounces, full term, and he appeared to be perfect. And of course, this was in 1997, because he's 25 years old now, but they didn't have as many tests and scans as they do now. My daughter is expecting, and I'm just so thrilled at how much technology has improved, even in this 20-year span, 25-year span. Like, she knows so much about this baby, and I think that's so cool. But back then, they didn't really know as much, especially in terms of the brain formation and that kind of thing. So, if it were today, they probably would have seen the deformity that had occurred in my son's brain, probably. But we didn't know. He was born on November 27th, and it was Thanksgiving time. I had a 2-year-old, my daughter, and my son. They were 2 years and 2 days apart. We proceeded through Thanksgiving and then Christmas, enjoying his first Christmas. And our daughter, who was 2, so she was having a joyful time, and we were really enjoying our time as new parents with a boy and a girl. And, everything seemed to be like how you would expect it, right? We had this 2 kids. We didn't really see anything wrong with Daniel, because as an infant, he appeared to be normal with his infant reflexes, and it didn't even dawn on us. But then something happened, and it was somewhere around the end of January of '98. Excuse me. It was Super Bowl Sunday, and this is the story. I was feeling kind of claustrophobic and a little upset. John and I had an argument. Now I can't even remember what it was, but I was upset and frustrated, claustrophobic. It was winter. So I said, I'm going to take the kids and go walk around the mall, which is what we used to do. You would put the baby in the stroller, go to the mall. We have a carousel in our mall, and Sarah would ride the horses. And, I would just like have an afternoon, get a coffee, get some exercise. So it's what we did back then to gain some inkling of autonomy and take a walk. And like I said, the only place that had privacy for nursing mothers at that time was this little lounge that they had at Lord and Taylor. So I remember I went there, and he was hungry. And so I settled in to nurse the baby, and my daughter was playing with some toys that she had with her and eating a Happy Meal. I think I got her a Happy Meal. And now that I remember, it was like, chicken nuggets and yeah. So that was the first time I had heard Daniel cough. He was coughing, and I'm like, that's weird. And he was 8 weeks old. He was about 11 pounds. So he was really little and weird coughing. So my daughter at that point had been a soldier of good health. I had not had really any issues with her health. I had never heard that kind of a cough before. It was freaking me out. So when I realized he wasn't doing well, we packed up, and then we went home, and he was coughing and coughing, and he wouldn't nurse, and he wouldn't take a bottle. And, whatever that fight was that my husband and I had that sent me fleeing to the mall for peace and time to think, that fight was just, it dissipated. And we were just like, we need to figure out what to do. It was Saturday, so we called the pediatrician. They told us to bring the baby to the emergency room. And we were like, really? We have to go to the emergency room because he's coughing? But we did. And they tested him for RSV, which we had not heard of. We had no idea what that was. Like, this is how it was. I ended up staying the night with him there, and John went home with Sarah. And then I was literally asleep on a wooden chair because there was no place. It was just packed in there with sick people and sick kids. And so the next morning, though, um, the resident pulmonologist, pediatric pulmonologist, whatever, came in and said, here's a nebulizer. We're going to let you go home. This is what you need to do every so often, every so many hours, give him a breathing treatment. So I went back home and had my little sick dude and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this and give him the albuterol. So I just watched him and watched his chest for retractions, which is what they told me to do. He just didn't look well, but back then I didn't have the little finger thingy, that we have now, that you just pop the finger in and it tells you if the person's oxygen level is normal or not. So in the later part of the evening, after having come in home, stay the afternoon into the evening, I was just not comfortable with how he looked. So I had called the doctor, and it was getting pretty late. By the time we got him there, got admitted, and got into a room, I met up with the pulmonary guy. He came in, and I remember it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. He was retracting. They were giving him fluids and stuff, but he was really having a tough time breathing. And then all of a sudden, he stopped. Uh, he just stopped. And I have this really palpable memory of the quiet of him not breathing, and he was just, eyes were kind of glassy, and he just stopped breathing, and then all of a sudden the beeping went off, and they came in, and they were like, I don't know. I feel like the beeps that were happening were screaming because they get loud, and then cold blue, and they took me out of the room, put me in the hallway, and John was standing there, literally like a deer in the headlights. He had two large Dunkin' Donuts coffees in his hands, and he was standing there like this, like what's going on, and and I remember that vision of him standing there, and he said I looked like I was insane, like I was just losing it. Um, they were able to get him breathing again. It wasn't that long that he had stopped, but then he needed to be on a ventilator, and there wasn't a pediatric ICU an infant ICU at this hospital. So they found him one, um, and that was in New York, in Westchester County. And we ended up being airlifted, or he was airlifted, flown to Danbury, from Danbury to New York. And we both couldn't ride in the helicopter with him. And it was freezing cold. I just remember being outside. So we were able to go to the helipad where the helicopter was and watch them load him onto he was only a little dude. He was a baby. But they loaded him on to the helicopter and they flew him off. And there he went up in the sky, and there went the helicopter. And we just stood there and held each other because, like, what just happened? He just coughed. Now he's in the helicopter and he can't breathe, right? So we watched him fly off. And then, we had decided that since they said only one of us could ride in the helicopter. So we decided that we would stay together and drive our car together to the hospital. It was like a half hour away, because they said there wasn't much that we were going to be able to do. They were going to end up having to take care of him. And so we just stayed together. We drove to New York. And then the baby that we saw a few hours later was unconscious, in critical condition. He had 2 chest tubes because he had collapsed lungs. He was intubated. He was full of wires and tubes, and he was very, very frail. He had both lungs were infected. It was really bad, and I fell into pieces. It was just like I was broken, And at that point, mind you, I did not know that he had any disabilities. I had no idea. So this was so traumatizing for a new mom who had never experienced any kind of trauma. Right? I was pretty normal, happy dude, and I'm like la 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 la, and all of a sudden, boom. So the nights that followed, we spent just hovering and waiting for the ICU to call us because we couldn't stay overnight at the hospital. This was the old Westchester Children's Hospital, which was like throwback to the 40s. I mean, you could not stay there. They didn't have the facility for that. But we would just go home, take care of our daughter, stay by the phone, talk to the ICU nurses on the phone. Like there wasn't even cell phones then, guys. This was like way back. So, so we were back and forth every single day. And since then that hospital's gone. They built a new one. But anyways, as Daniel recovered from that double lung RSV pneumonia, he did improve. It was that period of time, that critical illness was a lot to get through, but we got through it, and he was a little trooper. But he was home, and he did have asthma now, and he had some residual problems from the RSV. But we did notice that his motor skills seemed to either be slow, impaired, or even not happening. He just wasn't correctly developing. And we thought at first, as did the pediatrician, that maybe he was delayed because he did have such a traumatic event and all that. And maybe they began to think that maybe there was some delay or possible brain damage from the stopping breathing part. But all of the stories of so this is like there was so much. I remember all of it. I carry it forward. These are the memories that I'm carrying with me, and that's the purpose of this podcast, because I wanted to share with others that I'm right there with you, that I live and relive this over and over and over, and I will until I die, probably, unless I lose my memory. The evaluations, the genetics testing, the therapy services through birth to 3. I remember all the therapists. I remember what their names were, how they looked, what they told me. Like I remember so many things, the developmental specialists that came in. And I will just say this, that our baby was already disabled before this unfortunate RSV pneumonia. But we just were not able to tell because he had normal infant reflexes. So what we learned, his more advanced motor skills weren't coming because his brain itself had not formed correctly. It was very deformed, and it wasn't functional in the same way as a normal brain. So while he was very sick, unfortunately, there was something worse already there. So this news was really hard to take. The developmental specialist saying, I think, you're looking at something like, severe cerebral palsy, just like severe disabilities, and the trauma, the fear, the pain, the loss, it fell on us like a heavy cloud, like a brick. And we began to understand that our son was not just sick, that he was dealing with a life-altering state of being. And everything that we had been hoping for him, for us, for our family, that no longer was the same reality. So all of a sudden, we found ourselves standing there having to start all over again. Like we had no idea. We had to figure out every single detail and how to be parents to this special boy that we have. And we did love him so deeply. We do love him so deeply, all the more so, even to this day, though I carry those initial moments, those weeks, those months of discovery with me. Everything was going to be different for us as parents, and it was different for us as parents. The whole damn trip through childhood for all of our children was not normal. It was different. And we carry that with us, this need to have a medical professional that we trust available just to enable us to do any kind of human autonomous experience. We carry that with us because we can't live like normal people live. The challenges of having a son in a wheelchair who is requiring complete assistance with literally everything. He is literally everything, where he goes, what he eats, how he eats, how he breathes, how he bathes, how he has entertainment, everything. And we carry with us this guilt, this feeling of inadequacy as parents to our other children. Were we giving them enough? Were we enough for them? It just unfortunately becomes just a real challenge because, of course, if you have one child who is so incredibly needy, it does affect your other family members. They are also going to be affected because they came into this world as siblings to this medically complicated brother. They didn't sign up for that either. So I used to worry all the time that I wasn't doing the right thing, that I wasn't enough for Sarah and Thomas, um, that they were going to be, effed up because of it. And we tried. We really did. We tried really hard. Um, we loved our three babies very much. And unfortunately for us, for our family, one of them would remain in a baby state sort of forever. And that was something that we have to carry with us. We can't change that. That is with us. That is part of us. So how does that then translate to being able to support your kids, your normal kids, as they are growing and learning and changing and developing and becoming beautiful people? It, it's it's interesting, and a lot of people would say, oh, they're going to be such great kids. They're going to be so compassionate to other people. They're going to be this, they're going to be that. They're just, like it's kind of a platitude, because people just assume that this family who's taking care of this child and it's just, they're so beautiful, they're so strong, they're so this, they're so that. It's not like that. It is very hard. And they are their own independent human beings with their own personalities. And I never expected them to carry this burden with them also. I never did. And unfortunately, it pulls me away. And there are some things that are just the way they are. And it makes me sad. But I know they love me. And I know that they love their brother. So anyway, sorry. This is the real thing. This is the real when you're in an adapted life podcast world with Julie. Okay. Sometimes I cry. So I'm just so happy to be here because my time is so freaking difficult. Anyway, we carry forward the enormous financial strain that comes from the care of a medically complex and severely disabled person, loved one. The world of applying for states programs, finding out what grants there are available, finding out how to get equipment, finding how long does it take to get on Medicaid? What do they cover? What can we get? How do we get it? How do we do all these things? All the different doctors, the modifications to your home, how to transfer your child once they become too big to carry. It's a it's a huge project, right? We needed a van that could transport a wheelchair. And yeah, that was right when we were in the worst of the financial stress and crazy. So the topic of accessibility for the disabled, it could take up another whole entire podcast and then some. So I'm not going to really talk too much about all of the different things that we faced with accessibility because it is not a world for the disabled still out there. I mean, although there are laws and things that places do to make it easier, it still is very hard for those who are in wheelchairs or who have accessibility needs. We also carry forward the stress and the exhaustion from living in a hypervigilant state, hoping that each night is going to stay seizure free, right? That the sound alarm thing isn't going to go off where you have to jump up because he's awake and you got to go do something. We carry with us the stress of the invisible monster of epilepsy. We don't know when he's going to break through and have a tonic-clonic seizure. It is always like that, and it stays with us because despite our best efforts to be on top of his medication levels and his behavior and all that stuff, it still just happens. And the doctors told me one of the number one causes of death in kids like Daniel with polymicrogyria, which is what he has, is what they call SUDEP, which is sudden death by epilepsy. So they tell you that, and then you're like, oh, you know. So we carry the loss of friendship and community support. And in many cases, that distance happens even with family. I mean, there really isn't one special needs family that I know who have not felt isolated and lonely in some way. I mean, it is something that seems to happen, especially once Daniel got out of school. It's like suddenly, really quiet around here, especially when it's just him. Like, he's not in school anymore. I don't have the ability to go. I used to chat with other moms at the football games for Thomas's band stuff, and I'd see people. I mean, you lose connections. We can't always get to church as much as we want to. And of course, COVID really did a job on it. And it was right. COVID happened right after Daniel left the school system. And, everybody knows what happened, as we all hunkered down and became isolated. So that's something that happens. We carry forward with us the death of our careers. Many of us, myself included, had to forego their career after, multiple degrees and working really hard. I gave up a lifetime of earning potential and benefits and 401ks and having Social Security and all those. I had to walk away from it because I needed to take care of Daniel. And, I look back at the time, I'm like, I really enjoyed going to school and get my degree and my MBA. And now I do. I take care of a disabled son. I take care of all this. Every time I go, but the other day I was at this sleep study doctor for Daniel, and they always ask me, like, oh, are you a medical professional? I'm like, no, I am not. I am a PhD in my son. I know all his stuff, but no, I have an MBA, and I was a human resource manager, and I really liked my job, and I had to leave it behind. So I carry that forward. There was a grief in the loss of my career, but it just, well, that's what I say. It is what it is. We carry forward our trauma in general and how it manifests, right? How does our trauma manifest in each of us? Very differently, right? Some people become depressed, and some people have substance abuse issues or anxiety or relationship problems. There's a lot of divorce that happens. Burnout, health problems, that kind of thing. Get the picture? Anyways. So take a minute and think about maybe, what are all the things that you're carrying forward, and how has that affected your life? You might be just starting out, you might be at the very beginning, or you could be like me, 57 years old with a 25-year-old. And it's interesting to kind of think about it that way. And now that I'm at this point in my life, my children are 27, 25, and the youngest is 22. I see in them that they too have carried this life of being siblings to their disabled brother and children of a caregiving mother and father. I think at some point we're all in therapy. I am happy that my kids are very forward thinking with their emotional intelligence and getting help when they feel like they need it. I stress to them how important it is to take care of their mental health and, even if it's because they feel like their mother wasn't there for them enough, then I said, well, you're adults. You need to go and work on that. And that's just important. So they seem to really get that. And they're both very different. My other two children, they're beautiful people, amazing people. So I'm grateful for their intelligence and their love and how they have developed as human beings. I wish they didn't have to carry the burden of my weaknesses and their brother's disability. But honestly, I do feel like, for the most part, that I tried to do the best that I could in the situation that I was in. I'm not the strongest person. I have a lot of flaws too. And, that's as long as we can just keep going. Holy moly. Okay, so I have a cold and I have to take little breaks now and then to blow my nose. I think I was talking about my kids and how grateful I am that they, seem to be turning into great adults. So I don't know. At some point, your kids are grown up and you hope that they're going to be better humans even than you were, and that they're going to be able to develop positive life skills, and that's their journey to work through now. And I always pray that Sarah and Thomas will know somehow that deep love was always there for them. And we did try to do the best. John and I deal with our own emotions differently, and there has not always been an easy road. So as we adapt and learn and we begin to accept this life of unknown variables at every turn, we can also accept that we need to let go a little bit. So while we carry it off with us, and this was my point from the beginning of the podcast, one of the things that I was saying is that you give love to it, right? Instead of fearing it or feeling bad for yourself or feeling sorry for yourself, you give yourself a big hug for all that you've been through, and try to let go of all of those bad feelings if you can. We don't have to carry the pain. We don't have to live in the grief and the heavy, dark stuff. We don't. We can let that go. We don't have to medicate ourselves away and end up in a rough place. We can take the lessons. How have we built resilience? How have I adapted? This is the whole point that I started this podcast. I'm like, obviously I have made it here. I'm doing okay. I have survived. Maybe somebody be interested in just connecting and being in a tribe with me, this tribe of adapting and special needs, caring and caregiving and those things. What has it taught us? It's taught us some strength, some resilience, some flexibility, some perseverance. It's taught us how to be tough and to, pit bulls when you need to be, like in IEPs in schools. There's no special needs mother that I know that has ever had an easy road in the IEP world in the public school system. So, but no, no, anyhow, but it teaches us faith and trust and hope and love. And it teaches us lessons in the kindness of others. It teaches us that there is light that can come through these cracks. Just really think about your worst moments as a caregiver. And then think about what lessons you may have taken along the way from that. I tend to realize that, wow, I really honestly think that I have become a better human, or at least a seemingly good one, my human nature, from so much that I've learned from Daniel. I don't know what kind of person I would have been, obviously, but the person that I'm now is better than the person I remember I was way back, in the early years. it is grueling, and I have moments where I am dying to just tap out and go somewhere and like just be where nobody needs me and I can just do something that is totally me, you know? I like to visualize that sometimes. Like I'm on a beach and I am reading a book and I can go wherever I want and I can do whatever I want and I don't have to be anywhere at a certain time. I don't have to do anything except just breathe and completely be myself. And I do this not because I want to run away, but more so because I don't want to run away. So it's important to try to hang on to who you are. And I've talked about that a lot because we lose ourselves and then we find ourselves again. And anyways, give yourself a big hug. Daniel's 25 years old. He'll be 26 this year. And as I'm writing this, I was sitting in a Starbucks in Orange, California. And Daniel was at home with a nurse and his dad. And I was visiting my daughter, who found her wings and flew all the way to the other coast. And she is out there with her career and the love of her life and a new baby coming, making her own tribe, and it feels like the world sits between us. But I think that there's a way to make your love span that. You just have to adapt to it, right? I don't know what the future holds. I tend to enjoy just staying in the present moment as much as possible and being grateful. And the grateful brings the joy in my world, just one step at a time. I try to let go of what isn't helping me, and the more that we can let go, then the less that we have to carry with us on our very tired shoulders. So I was tucked in this little crowd of people in this little California Starbucks in Orange, California, and just sitting there losing myself. And I think that's what I did. I went off by myself and I was enjoying myself. And I didn't have to be anywhere. My daughter knew where I was because, iPhone, find my friends, you know what I mean? Like people know where you are if you want them to. So I just relaxed and I just did whatever I wanted to do. And I wrote and I relaxed and I just edited some YouTube videos and thought about things, you know, enjoyed the blue sky and the California sun. I didn't really miss home when I was out there in August. I just felt like I needed to be happy in the moment. And the only thing I had to carry it was my backpack and my laptop and the phone and the coffee. And I was very grateful. And then I went back to Connecticut 2 days later and came home to Daniel being very sick. That's another whole thing, but he's doing okay. I'm doing okay. And yeah, there is so much value in that which we carry with us. There is so much value to your story. And you hold on to that and you take the best and leave the rest. And that's all I'm going to talk about for today. And I just want you guys to know that I am right out here with you in the caregiving world, uh, trying to figure out how to maneuver most things in a world where it's not exactly easy to apply the same amount of time and resources that you would really want to, like to be a really good podcaster. Yeah, I'd have to do a lot more work than what I'm able to, but I'm still trying. I'm trying to do that. And I appreciate anybody who's listening to this and any feedback. And you can see more of our life on YouTube. We are on the channel, which is my name, Julie Hasselberger, Hasselberger. I made it easy. It's my name. And that is a, video channel that I upload videos that just kind of show a little bit about what the day-to-day life is like. It's kind of like whatever I'm thinking about when I pick up my camera. You never really know what you're going to get. It could be a lot of the dogs, and it could be a lot of me sitting in Dale's room. It could be us painting. It could be trips we take. It could be just me sharing, my thoughts and frustrations over different day to day, stuff that makes you crazy. Uh, I try to be on other social media places, on my Instagram, J Hasselberger, or on Facebook. But mostly I do upload the videos to the YouTube channel, and I work a lot on our Etsy shop, which is Daniel's Special Art Shop. That's not really social media. That's more like, I don't know, like our art shop where we take our collaborative artwork and we sell prints and merchandise and have fun doing really cool stuff, Daniel and I. So we do that. But I am going to continue to be resolute in my goals to start bringing in some guests and start learning more about you guys. And hopefully you enjoy the stories and the little anecdotes along the way. Yeah, all that we carry with us. And here I am. I'm trying to share that it's okay. It's all okay. And we will be okay. And if you're young, 20 years younger than me, look at me. I'm 57 and somehow I got through it all. You know what I mean? You just gotta keep trying. And I hope I can offer some encouragement. You guys the best, and I will be back soon. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of my adapted life.